Hi, I'm Dr. Ho, the founding director of CSUN Autonomy Research Center for STEAM or Arts. We are a NASA-sponsored Center of Excellence, so our partnership with NASA JPL is a very special one. That is why we were thrilled to talk to our special guest, Lieutenant General Larry James, JPL's Deputy Director. Let's hear what he had to say. He is Lieutenant General Larry James, who is the Deputy Director of JPL. Larry managed over 6,000 scientists, engineers, technicians, business personnel supporting JPL, generating over $2.6 billion. Before retiring from active military in 2013, Larry was the U.S. Air Force Deputy Chief of Staff for the Intelligence, Civilian Reconnaissance, leading more than 20,000 officers across the Air Force ISR enterprise. He got his Bachelor of Science degree in Aeronautical Engineering from the U.S. Air Force Academy, and he got his Master of Science degree in Aeronautics and Astronautics from MIT, and he was also a fellow at the Charles Stark Rayburn Laboratory. I have the honor, went to the same department and was the same fellow as Larry. So ladies and gentlemen, please give a very welcome to Lieutenant General Larry James.
And let me just say, you're an awesome dancer.
So thank you so much for coming, Larry. We have queried from the community a number of questions about AI, and really love to hear your thoughts on them today.
Sure, look forward to it.
Yeah, the first question is, what is the history of utilizing AI at JPL, and how has AI changed over time at JPL?
Simple question, right? I think if you think about JPL and what we do, first of all, it's also about collecting data. We send these spacecraft into orbit. They have various sensors. We look back at the Earth. We look at Mars. We look at the planets. We look at the universe. So part of AI in our mind is, how do I manage these massive quantities of data?
Right.
And how do I pull knowledge out of that? So I think that's historically something we've done. If you look at like our first mission to Venus, we started looking at how can I use some AI algorithms to find volcanoes on Venus, right? With the radar mapper that we were using. So it's driven for us in many ways by managing massive quantities of data, number one. And number two, it's also driven by these robotic explorers that often can't have a human in the loop because you're light minutes or light hours away out in the solar system or beyond. And so you have to put some intelligence on board in order for these systems to operate efficiently and effectively. So broadly speaking, I think those two categories have historically been what drives us in terms of thinking about how do I do this differently versus man in the loop and constantly operating in that manner.
Right. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate that insight. And can you talk about some of the challenges in AI utilization? What barrier, what challenges that we have run into?
Challenges. Well, of course, AI is all in the news, right? So we're all thinking about this. I think for us, science is what we are about. We exist to answer the hard science questions about our Earth, about our solar system, how it was formed, about the broader universe and how it's formed and what's going on. But science demands integrity, right? In terms of, is the data that I have good data? Is the analysis that I am doing on it the right analysis that leads me to defendable answers? And so when I start thinking about autonomy, when I start thinking about AI, when I start thinking about, whatever, large language models, whatever it is, how can I indeed confirm that the output of those systems is integral and true? And in fact, we just stood up a group about a year and a half ago called SUDS, Science Utilization for Data Science, to look at those very questions. If I'm going to have this autonomy operating, if I'm going to do, AI examining the data, how can I have that uncertainty quantification that allows me to say this is true data, these results are integral, and I can defend them, versus this black box doing something underneath that I can't pull out the rationale.
Right. Well,
That's a challenge in the science community that we're working on, but it's certainly something that will drive us.
Right. And how have the recent advances in generative AI, such as ChatGPT, impacted JPL, and how should it use in the future for space exploration? I know we have used it in our project.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, when ChatGPT came out and all the press is out there and people are like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with this? And
right.
So the first thing, frankly, we did was let's just put some guidelines out there for people. We view large language models, ChatGPT type things, it's a tool, right? It's like any tool, you have to use it wisely. You have to validate the output, and you have to verify. So that was kind of the fundamental view that we took is, okay, if you want to do this, understand the intricacies of what comes out and you can defend it, number one. Number two, we think certainly it is a tool that is useful. One of the examples I give is we do a host of testing on our systems at JPL, integration and test. And yet, how do I ask a question about, well, on this Mars mission 12 years ago, do they have this problem? Trying to find that, frankly, in the stovepipe data centers is hard. So can I ingest, let's say, all my validation and verification testing on a particular mission into a large language model that allows an engineer to go in and say, please answer this question, versus him spending 3 days trying to dig through data sets
right.
and figure out what the answer is. So we think there's absolute value in those types of things, right. used wisely.
And you mentioned guidelines, so do you think, should AI be regulated?
I think that's a project for ARCs, don't you?
We do everything. Just give it to us.
Then you get into the whole question. That's a tough one. I'm not sure. There could be some guidelines
right.
that you want to at least put out there for the science community and the broader community. I think that's work to do, frankly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So. How do AI machine learning capabilities affect our current and future workforce, Larry? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I think one of the things we've talked a lot about is, you can't in this world in many ways be a single discipline person in many ways. I mean, if I take the scientist today, let's take an earth scientist. He's trying to understand perhaps the carbon cycle or the water cycle. And yet, because of this large quantity of data and trying to really make sense of it, you want the scientists to really start to, at a minimum, understand the tools that are out there that can help them do the analysis and do it effectively and with integrity. So we're looking at things like, machine learning modules that a scientist with minimal training can pull down and utilize to start to pull meaning out of the data. Right. They don't necessarily have to be the expert, but they have to be able to have some basic understanding of the model and the tool that they can then apply to these incredible quantities of data. I mean, a mission we're launching next year will create about 78 terabytes of data per day. Mm-hmm. How do I handle that? Right. You're going to have to use these tools, and we want to have the scientists smart. So it's going to become more and more interdisciplinary in terms of being able to use these tools and understand them, not just focus in your narrow engineering area or your narrow science area.
Right. Wow, that's thank you for talking about the future. And how would you like AI to immortalize you?
With my perfect avatar. How's
there
that?
You go. Yeah. What is your perfect avatar?
You'd have to ask my wife that. She has some ideas on that.
Everyone, please give it up for Larry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry.